Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm finally doing my review on the DJI Focus Pro. So I've had this system for quite some time now, and honestly, I really wanted to learn the ins and outs of the system before I gave my final thoughts on it, because I feel like a lot of times when people complain about things, it's usually like user error or just a lack of knowledgeability about the typical product, about that particular product. So with that being said, I've used this on my documentary. I've used this for a bunch of different projects, or just like grabbing my photography friends, like, yo, like I'm about to shoot you today. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what I did. So, I want to talk about some of the questions that I had when I was looking at purchasing this system. I want to talk about some of its limitations, some of the things I love about it, and um, yeah, and like some of the mistakes that I made like early on. So with that being said, so let's talk about the setup. So when you first get the system, it comes with this small battery. And I heard a lot of people say that with some people were using like the RS2 battery from the DJI gimbals, and they were receiving an error message. Now I have the RS3 Pro, and that's actually what I'm using right now. And so I actually prefer this battery a little bit better because it's a little bit longer. The texture is smoother. And I really hadn't done a comparison in between how much time I get between this and my RS3 Pro battery. But I will say, DJI did say this system was compatible with the RS3 Pro, not the RS2. So if you're having that issue, I mean, it's your fault. So like I said, it comes with this hand grip. The battery charges it. It comes with the motor, the LiDAR. Then it comes with a few accessories like dismounting accessories and stuff like that. Now, basically how I decided to use this system is I'm actually using it with my Nucleus Nano. So that was actually the first focusing system I had. And I know like a lot of people, they're like, soon as something comes out, they're like, oh, I'm gonna sell it and get this other thing. But I just kind of feel like that's crackhead behavior. Because it's like, if you just bought the system, like granted, I've had this for a long time, but like if you just bought something else and as soon as something else comes out, it's like you haven't even given yourself time to even like really learn that system. So for me, whenever I buy gear, like I have the mindset like, okay, I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna have this for a few years. I'm gonna really learn the ins and outs of it, and I'm gonna be like at this filmmaking thing, okay? So like that's my mindset. So anyway, and not just that, but I feel like holding on to your gear kind of saves you a little bit of money. So instead of buying like another motor, which will be like another $150, I decided to just keep my Nucleus Nano motor to control my zoom. And then obviously on this side, I'm controlling my focus. And so that's pretty much the setup that I decided to go with. But also with this system, it's not perfect. And a lot of times I just keep my hand on the focus trigger because sometimes it doesn't always focus on what you need to focus on. So in filming my documentary, all my interviews were outdoors and we have people like walking in the background. And basically one of the things that would happen is that it would jump focus to maybe like the person walking in the background. So basically there's two autofocus modes. There's AF, MF, which is what it comes with by default. And then it's the AMF in manual. Then manual focus mode. And that was pretty much the mode that you saw a lot of people demonstrating for like the creators that were displaying this system. And so basically what it is, it'll focus on whatever you want to focus on. And if you grab the focus and maybe focus on something else, and when you let go, it'll jump back. So it's kind of like this magnetic focusing type of thing. So with that, I just keep my hand on the trigger just in case if it ever thinks about focusing on something else. I'm like, no, you're staying right here. But because I have to do that with this handle, that means I'm gonna need another handle to be able to control the zoom. Unless you just kind of want to toggle between it, but I just feel like that would be just too much of a headache. So anyway, so that's why I'm using two separate handles on this system. Now this is my system for my, so this is my setup for my pocket camera. Now, if I'm on my Ursa, My setup is pretty similar. The only thing is that instead of using, I can actually show you guys this right quick. So instead of using this nano rail that it comes with, I would instead use this mount, which I was able to find on Amazon. So this is basically a rosette to nano rail mount. Now, the reason why I like using this mount is because if you use this nano rail, now they're taking up so many of your mounting points versus just kind of being able to mount it directly like this, and all of your mounting points above it, below it, side it, whatever, are still available. So that's my thing. So that's pretty much the setup and how it works. Now, once you choose between your focus modes, there's two modes that you can actually focus in. So you have your wide mode, which is the mode that I typically use if I'm trying to track a face, because it'll find the face and it'll track your faces. So that's in wide mode. And then you have your flex mode, a flex spot mode. And with that one, it's essentially focusing in the center, or you can actually draw like a square, and you can draw a square on the face or the subject, whatever it is you're trying to focus on. Now, I actually had this really weird scenario today where it kept focusing on the background. I was in wide mode, but it was focusing on the background where typically it would just automatically focus on any faces. And so essentially what I had to do with that is, when you're in these modes, there's like a magnifying glass, which it zooms in 2 times. So I was zoomed in 2 times. So I'm assuming what was happening is that the LiDAR wasn't able to see my face, because maybe I was like out of view. And so once I just clicked that to zoom out to the original view, it started focusing on my face again. So if you ever have that situation, that's probably the solution. All right, now, when I first got this, I couldn't even figure out how to get to the autofocus mode. So basically what you do is you swipe left, then you swipe up, and then there's a menu option that says M button, and then that's where you can toggle between your LiDAR AF/MF and LiDAR AMF/MF mode. And to get out of that, you slide down, slide to the right, and then you're back at the screen where you can actually view what the LiDAR is viewing. All right, so that's pretty much the setup. Now let's talk about some of my user errors that I made. So when I saw like other creators using this or demonstrating this before I purchased mine, I saw that they had the LiDAR on this top handle right here, and that is so accurate. They were so lying. They were not focusing using that. And I'm gonna tell you why. So this LiDAR needs to be able to see what your camera is seeing. So if it's way to the left or to the right, whichever way you have it mounted, it's not gonna see the same. And basically what's gonna happen is that the LiDAR may be showing that the subject is in screen, but on your camera it may be out of screen. So obviously that's going to cause a discrepancy in the focusing. And so basically what I did, so it wasn't focusing where I wanted to focus, and so I was kind of like a little frustrated. I was like, nah, what's the point of having this if I have to control my focus on my own? You know. So then I put it on my top handle. I had a top handle on my pocket, so I ended up putting it on my top handle, both on my pocket and on my Ursa. And again, it was too high, so it still wasn't seeing what the camera was seeing. So essentially what I had to do is I had to take off the top handle on my pocket. Then on my Ursa, I have a base plate for my top handle, so I took that off, mounted the LiDAR on there, then put my top handle back on. And once I did that, that pretty much fixed the whole focusing issues that I was experiencing. Let's go into some of the things I didn't like about it. All right. So one of the things I do not like about this camera, I didn't like it then, and I still don't like it now, is that when you look at the cords that it actually comes with, they're so short. So you literally have to mount things on, I feel like you almost have to mount it on the right. So the ports on the LiDAR are on the right side. So if you're mounting your hand grip on the right side, it's perfect. But if you decide you want to mount your handle on the left side, as you can see, like it's not going to stretch far enough. So basically what's going to happen, you're going to just barely be able to get this in. And on top of that, you're going to be putting a lot of strain on those ports, or it's just not going to reach at all. So like that was one of the issues that I had. And I have seen other people use like adapters and stuff like that, but I was just like, I don't want to have to do that. And another thing with these cords is they're not like the typical USB-C cords, because they're much, they're smaller at the tip. So if I was just to try to use any USB-C port, those wouldn't work either. So that was just another thing about this. So I didn't really necessarily like that, but that was one of the reasons why I bought this attachment, so that I could make sure I'm fitting everything on the right side on my Ursa. So the cords I didn't like. It's another thing. This is a pretty huge thing, I think. But when you're switching in between lenses, sometimes it doesn't always remember. It remembers your lens profile. Like the lens profile will be in the system, but it won't focus on what it's supposed to focus on. And so early on, I would just delete the lens profile and just like redo the recalibration process. So whenever you add a new lens, so basically you put the focal point in there, you're going to have to, it's going to have you calibrate the motor. Then you're going to measure the focal distance between 2 meters and 4 meters, and you're pretty much done. So I was doing that, and that process only takes about 30 seconds. So it's not the end of the world. But if you're on a set, it's a big deal. But what I found is a better option is just to recalibrate the motor directly from the motor. So on the motor, you have F, I, and Z. You want to make sure you're on the F. And then there's a button with an O on it. You just press that twice, and that will recalibrate the motor. So sometimes that works. If that doesn't work, then I'll just restart the handle just by turning it off and then turning it right back on. Now, this is specific to photo lenses. So one of the questions I had was, how does this work with photo lenses? Because I know in old systems that it wasn't the best, basically. And it does work with the photo lenses. However, I would say that it's just some little kinks. It's kinks with the photo lenses that I don't experience with the cinema lenses. I would just say that. So one of the things being is that, when you're switching between like different photo lenses, it won't recognize the focusing, as I just mentioned. And so after you recalibrate the motor, you turn it off and on, if it's still a little wonky, one of the things you can do, so let's say if in order to get this in focus, I'm going to the right, pull this wheel in the opposite direction, let go, and when it jumps back, particularly when you're in the AMF mode, it'll jump back to where it should be focusing. So I'm not sure why it does that, but it does. So that's something to keep in mind. So like I said, not remembering the lens profiles, the short cord, those are like and when you're trying to focus on objects, focusing on faces, it does fine. When you're focusing on like objects, so let's say if you were doing like a product video or doing like some B-roll, that's when the system does struggle. So for those type of shots, I just do it manually. I just do the focus manually for those. So those were like the 3 main issues that I had with the system. Everything else I pretty much love. So but I really love it. If those things aren't a deal breaker for you, I definitely think it's worth picking up. I wish I was getting paid to say this, but I'm not, because I could use a vacation. So anyway, two of the main questions I had about this system, I wanted to know prior to purchasing, and I never really got a direct answer for some of the people who did have it already. And so the first question I had was, can I take this NanoRail adapter off and just use this rosette mount directly on my camera? Because I actually have a rosette mount on both my pocket cage and on my Ursa. But actually, like, I tried to take these screws out and disassemble it will not come off. So, and that was the reason why I had to buy this attachment here. And so yeah, so it doesn't come off. So Yeah, don't even try. So the next question I had was, can I start and stop record my camera um, with this hand grip, specifically for Blackmagic users? And I never really got a clear answer on that. It was just like maybe uh, they said something about you have to check your website because only certain cameras were compatible. Essentially, if your camera has Bluetooth, then yes, it will work with this system. So I tried this on both my Pocket 6K Pro as well as on my Ursa, and they both work absolutely fine. Now, if you are switching between the two cameras, you will need to disconnect from one and then reconnect to the other. And with that being said, you don't need to have the cords or anything else, or you don't have to have the cords or the LiDAR connected to it. Like if you just want to use this solely just as a handle to stop and start record, you could definitely do that. And I'm actually using this right now to stop and start my Ursa. And as you can see, I don't have anything else plugged into it. But if I click the red button, it's going to stop recording. So yeah, that was one of the main questions I had about this, because I know that with this handle from Tilta, it does have like a record option up here. However, you do need to connect it through this USB-C cable. And with that, if I connect it via USB-C, then I wouldn't be able to use my T5 or my T7 Shield, because that uses USB-C as well. So I was really, really happy about the fact that I could just use this as a wireless start and stop record, even if I'm not using like the full focusing system. Right, and those were like really all of my main questions I had with this. And like I said, I'm using this one. Like this is a perfect system to, to zoom, focus. Hey, I'm really loving it. I don't have any regrets about buying it, and I'm glad that I didn't prejudge this early just to say, oh, like it's not working exactly how I thought it was, and I'm just going to return it. I'm glad I really took the time to sit with it and really learn how it actually works, because I'm really glad um to have the system. And I actually joined forces with a few of people in my creative community at the Artist Collective, and we'll be having some really amazing projects coming out, and I will definitely have this front and center. So, like I said, I've used this on everything. I use this for interviews outdoors, use this on sliders. I use this to film myself. If you want to go vlog style on a Blackmagic camera, you can do that. um yeah, I use this in studio settings, kind of like how I'm doing right now, and in all those scenarios it works perfectly fine. I will say I enjoy using this much more on my Ursa and with my sign glass than I do, because honestly I really don't pick up my pocket that often since I have my Ursa. Like the Ursa is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, I feel like if those things aren't deal breakers for you, it's definitely worth picking up. And you can rent it, but I feel like even with renting it, you don't get the full gist of everything within a week. Especially like, I don't know about you, but I still have my day job. So I literally try to do as much as I can between like that Friday through Sunday type of time period. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, give me a like and subscribe. And I hope you watch the full video. Peace until next time.